right now we are in the early stages of a major bull market in lithium. This is all driven by the energy transition to the battery metals, the whole EV boom. And we've already seen some of the early leaders in the lithium space up 1,000, 2,000% stocks like Patriot Metals. I think it's been a 20 bagger, Brunswick. And investors are now looking for the next ground floor opportunity. And that brings us to Stria. Coincidentally, Stria, Dean, correct me if I'm wrong, but Stria is located right next to Patriot. Your projects are right next to them.
Yeah, our project Patriot has a number of projects, their flagship being further north, but they have a project after we staked at Stria and we picked it up back in 2013 when it was very easy to get really good properties compared to today. And because of the results in that, I think that we've had, you've seen Patriot is beside us. They have staked claims as well as Brunswick has a massive project as well, just to the east of us, but northeast and southeast rather. And then we've got a number of others too, like they're everywhere. This area, Pontax area is really hot. I think there's only a certain amount of regions that have lithium. Everybody's trying to get as much land banking as they can in the hot areas where people have found stuff because again, it's the government's paying now, at least the Canadian government is paying you to use North American minerals as well as the US. It makes sense. If you're going to be getting subsidies, everybody realizes a great
You
opportunity.
it's again, you're in the right spot. This is in North lithium in North America. This is the place to be. And again, some early investors, especially a lot of Canadian investors who are more mining oriented, they've gotten into lithium early on. And again, we're still in really the early stages, even though we've already seen again those some of the stocks are up 10x, 20x. Some of the early leaders, and this is just the start of again a generational bull market in these battery metals because we all know about this energy transition. And you are, again, we've called it before, it's the Saudi Arabia. Basically the Saudi Arabia of lithium, James Bay in Quebec. Dean, before we get into all the exciting stuff, we're going to talk about the latest drill results. We're going to talk about the new property that you're picking up, which basically doubles the size of your position in the Saudi Arabia of lithium. But first, before we get into all that, for anybody that's new, give us a quick snapshot of what Stria is doing.
Basically, Stria Lithium, we picked up this project back in 2013, looked across Quebec. This was one of the best properties that were seen. The property hasn't disappointed. We hit on basically every hole but one. We did a partnership with the Australian company Cygnus Metals that have an expertise in this, obviously Western Australia. These are the pegment hard rock specialists. We did a deal with them where they're paying us and they're basically doing all of the exploration work. They've done a fantastic job. They've drilled close to 14, 15,000 meters of drilling. We're waiting on a lot of assays back and they have said that they'll have a resource estimate out sometime this summer. We're very pleased with the property and we realize that on strike, there's properties around us as well. And that kind of leads us to why we went out and purchased this next property.
So there's going to be a resource estimate this summer. Could be a major catalyst for the stock, which would be this resource.
Yeah, Cygnus has mentioned that. They've said that they'll be coming out with this resource estimate. Lithium is a bit different than gold and some of the other things that maybe some of your viewers have invested in. You really have to hit 10 million metric tons to be a player. If you look at the companies around us, that's the numbers, 10 million, 20 million, that the base is 10. So it's a very realistic number. Generally, a lot of people are doing it in 15, 17,000 meters. So we'll see where they get to. We're excited for that to come out and we look forward to having a look at it.
Okay. And so the idea is to get about 10 million metric tons.
I was just saying, yeah, 10 million is the minimum. That's the
Yeah.
benchmark. And you can
So
take that problem. We're looking for more, obviously. And the properties is a very large property and we're going to have lots of drilling left. But yeah, the minimum's 10 million.
let's make it accessible easy for investors to understand like some of these numbers. Let's say they get to this resource estimate of 10 million metric tons. What would that be worth? Again, we're not saying that because again, we're still early, right? Until it's official, it's not. But
That
what is that worth in today's market? 10 million metric tons in the location where you're at.
So I would say I can't obviously say what the value is, but what I would say is if I look at other companies, if someone was to look at other companies and see what their market caps are based on 10 million metric tons or 20 million metric tons, we see when I look at it, probably about $100 million worth of market cap for every 10 million metric tons. This is again an unofficial.
So the other compelling thing about the stock is basically, look, unlike a lot of these junior exploration stocks, yeah, they say, yeah, we got this project, whatever, but then they still gotta raise a bunch of cash to pay for the drilling and all the stuff. You're essentially done. You gotta sit back and relax. Everything has been financed. You're actually sitting in a big cash position. And now I think the idea is, I think what we should really make clear is really, I think the idea is to your focus is on maximizing shareholder value and really riding this lithium bull market for all it's worth. And this is why you picked up this next project, because now you have this blue sky position. You have this blue sky opportunity. It's not just let's just call it 50 million plus whatever upsides, which would make it like a 5x. But now you have this additional project which doubles your position, and that's your completely blue sky. You want to talk about that a little bit?
Yeah. So I think we have the initial project. That initial central project is a very large project too. The blue sky there continues. There's a lot of land to explore there.
The existing contacts.
The existing contacts, you can explore that for years and years. I mean,
So
it's a
in
great.
theory, okay. So by the way, I correct. You should correct me because we threw out a number of 10 million is a low bar. Let's say you get a bigger resource than 10. I mean, this is just they've only explored a tiny part of the whole project. What percentage?
Very, very, very small, less than 1%. It's a massive property. I think the idea is that they put a lot of work into the LiDAR and topography to find out where the pegmatites are. They're going to be doing work to remove the brush so you can see where they are. So anyway, that project, you could be there for a decade. That's a lot of work there. They started with the obvious, which makes sense, right? We had this massive outcropping pegmatite. So they started with that, which is what we started with initially when we did some drilling and were successful at the drilling. And that's why they came into this project. The new project was very exciting. It's actually closer to the road. We go across that property in order to get to Pontac. So it's southwest of Pontac Central. Great property. We're very lucky to get it, to be honest. It's very difficult to get good property right now, as you can
Right.
imagine. It's a large land package. We picked it up basically through being located in the right city. We're in Ottawa, and it was an Ottawa group, people that we knew, some mutual people within the industry. They picked it up 5 years ago. They were looking for gold and did some work on it. And then they had walked the property back then. They had seen different type of geology than what they were looking for. They did some sediment samples, what have you. They weren't going to go forward with gold, but they let us know saying, hey guys, like you guys are right. This is right on your strike, right on the trend. And we visually walked this way back when, and we've done some work on it. And so we're able to make a deal with them. And they believe in the property. That's why, if you notice, if you do look at the deal online and the press release, you'll see they took a lot of it on the back end because I think they realize that there's some good value there. And we're going to go for that. So we've got another project now that will earn in 100%, and it'll be our project. And we'll just go out there and do what we do. Because I think the difference between our company and other companies is we're not your typical mining type management in the sense, at least I'm not. And I've invested in a lot of junior mining companies. And one of the most frustrating things is I'm not a fan when they just keep basically raising money, spending it, raising, spending, raising, rolling
Right.
back, spending, raising. And so for us, like the first thing I wanted to do is, I had to roll the company back. We have 25 million shares outstanding. We probably have about $2.45 million in the bank. We're waiting on another $2 million worth of goods. And
That's cool. The calling to put more money in.
yeah, that's the bank.
Hmm.
So yeah, so we've been very fortunate. We've got money coming in. And I think that for us, what we're looking to do is really keep a tight structure. We want to have that elasticity that when we do find things or when Cygnus finds things, that can actually move the stock. So that's what you'll see with us. We've got a very tight flow. Our strategy is to go out, and we're good at being able to obtain really good properties, do some very good work at the beginning. And if this looks really good, we have the opportunity to either keep it or we can make a deal again with someone else who wants to earn in and spend the money. But we're looking to just drive shareholder value. That's our goal. We're not pretending to be miners. We're just looking to make sure we take advantage of this tectonic plate shift that's happening today. And I think that people will see that the value of these properties is going to be extremely valuable.
Everywhere you go, you see just like more and more EVs. It's really going mainstream faster than anybody expected. Right now, I don't want to say the word gold rush, but there is an incredible need right now, a real urgency to get as much lithium as possible. I mean, we have Elon Musk is talking about this. He's like saying, "Hey, we need as much lithium, we need as much of these battery metals as possible right now." Because here's the thing: this energy transition, this transition to EVs, is happening. It's actually happening much faster than I think a lot of people expected. It's really going mainstream much quicker, and this is the real bottleneck is having the lithium, and you're right there. It's easy to access. This is not like somewhere where it's, I don't know, in some third world country on the other side of the world. It's right next to where all the automobile industry is in North America, basically. You're right there. So the bottom line, the takeaway for investors is this: you got this very significant project in the one of the best locations in the world. You have a partner that's essentially doing all the work. They have the expertise, right? Because here's the thing: what I think investors don't realize, what general look, a lot of the Canadian mining investors know this, but let's say the kind of the general investors with who are not familiar with mining, what they don't realize is 90% of these exploration mining stocks, yeah, these guys, it's just some promoters that they got a project, and they don't know anything about exploration. They don't know anything about mining. They're trying to run up the stock. By the time they getting where they're full diluted out here, you've executed perfectly. When you have this very tight structure, there's minimal dilution. Again, you brought in the experts, and these guys. You want to just give people a quick recap of Cygnus in case anybody doesn't know about them, a little bit about their kind of background in Australia and their kind of their track record.
Yeah. So when we had the property, there was a number of parties interested, and we chose Cygnus because Cygnus, the management team is excellent. If you go on their website and you see their management team, they're world class from their executive chairman to their GOs. Yeah, they've been very successful in the past. These are guys that were behind Bellevue Gold. That thing is, I think, going into production and brought it from basically inception to $1 billion. Our view is we might as well follow those that have the right track record because the last thing we wanted to do was place the gold into their hands and they couldn't raise the money and drill it. They've superseded our expectations, to be honest. They had a lot longer to do the drilling and spend the initial $4 million. And they blew through that in 7, 8 months because they're aggressive and they had good results. So
And also, I think that's the other good thing, which I think investors, I don't know if they appreciate this or not. But one of the things, again, with exploration is it's like in any business, it's execution. It's getting the work done, getting the drilling done. And right now, there's bottlenecks so you got to get the drills, you got to get the people, the talent. It's just like the tech industry has you got to have the right people. You got to, and this is, and these guys have done it, so it's really incredible. So we're a couple months. So again, we're now going into the what is it, the home stretch, so to speak, for this inflection point. How much more? What kind of drilling result are we going to be getting? We're going to be getting stuff like what, like every other week. Now this is stuff from back from the winter, right? This is stuff that's going to be coming in every other week probably by now. The assays.
yeah, from my understanding, I think they're putting all those together and they're going to come out with, like I said, they've said that they're going to come out with an estimate based on those. So I think it's going to be sooner than later with whatever's remaining. Obviously, there's a lot of work in putting that together, and they're busy compiling all of the data. But again, so far from what we've seen from them, let's say they had 18 months to spend it. They spent it in 6 or 7. So
By the way,
they
it's a good
continue.
thing. That's a positive, right? That's also positive because we want to get
Positive that they're smart. They're there to drive value. They realize the location we're at. They realize that we have an opportunity. The faster that you get a resource, the faster that everything happens. We're in a good location to take advantage of that. Those are thrilling.
Yeah, just for some perspective, because look, one of the issues I know we've had with some companies is that it takes them forever to get anything done. I'm talking about like text. Takes them forever. The reality is they're not executing. Here, these guys, the idea is that they're getting the same amount of work done that they were gonna supposed to do in 18 months. They got it done in 6, in a third of the time. And I'm assuming they're within budget here, right? That's a very important distinction here. And here's the question I think people may ask. What's the idea? They get this resource estimate, let's 8 weeks or so. At that point, what happens next? What are the next steps? Is it planned to go into production at some or are they gonna do it, or they're gonna sell it you're gonna sell it off to a bigger partner? What's the idea? What's the game plan?
Yeah, I think I can't speak for them, but what I would say, just knowing from so far, they're going to keep drilling. And I think if you look at a lot of the Australian companies, they're quite astute in the fact that they don't stop. They just keep going. If it's there, they keep drilling and they keep adding to the resource. And I think that's a smart thing to do. So I think with the land package that they have, and if there's more money to spend as well, like they're going back out in July. So I definitely think that, yeah, from if I look at the past track record, I think they'll just keep drilling and looking to make it larger and larger. I don't think it's their goal to stop at 10 million metric tons. I think their goal is to find as much as possible.
So the whole idea is essentially is to same thing that you're going after is to maximize the value of the assets and prove out potentially it could be, I don't know, what if it's 100 million metric tons? Potentially, why not?
I think as long as you have the money to drill and to continue to prove it out, I think that's the most important thing, right? If you look at a lot of the other companies, especially a lot of the most successful companies, they're Australian companies. The Australians have been the wisest individuals, I would say, out of everyone. They saw the opportunity, they see the subsidies from the governments, they see the largest market for vehicles being the United States of America, and they rushed over here and grabbed good properties. And
Special for this pegmatite stuff. That's their
yeah,
special. This type of drilling and everything else. Okay, very interesting. Okay, let's cover also. I just lately there was some insider buying. So what's the insiders are buying the stock? I would assume that's you see an upside in the stock.
well, I think if insiders are buying, it speaks for itself, right? Can't really say too much, but yeah, if you look at how much money we have in the bank and you look at what we have, it would be up to the investors to really take a look at that, considering what we're trading at.
Yeah, and yeah, I've noticed those some very positive comments from investors. I've noticed on social media regarding the drill results. So it's still the thing is that the stock is still not really on the radar of most investors. That's why I think the opportunity is still available. That's why it's still this ground floor situation. People don't quite either they haven't heard of it or they don't quite understand it yet. I think we got some very interesting upside. Okay, Dean, what's next? What's the big picture? What's the big picture? Are you basically looking to? Are you going to be adding more properties? Are you looking at more properties in that area? Are there more? Can you get more? Oh, what's your game plan for Stria?
Yeah, I think that we believe in the Pontax region. Obviously, others do as well because they're there. Brunswick there, Patriot there. You've got a lot of the big players. If you look at map and you check out our last press release of who's there. Partners, we're looking to work with neighbors. If we can grab property, absolutely. And we're gonna go and do what we did in the first property. We're gonna go out and analyze it and hopefully come back with good results like we did the last time. And then we can decide if we keep it ourselves or if we make a deal again with our partners. Because I think the important thing is like we're interested in working together. I think a lot of junior companies try to pull off too much, but I think that basically we're pragmatic in the fact of who we are and the size we're at. Cygnus has been very successful in taking the kind of the north extension of the strike that they picked up. And we've now picked up the southern extension. So the two companies, I think, are working together in the sense of trying to make sure that we can solidify the area and really have a good kick at going forward and creating something. So it definitely helps, I think, for the cooperation between the two companies.
Yeah, I think to sum up, I think what makes this kind of compelling for investors again, i- it really comes down to I think the execution. Yeah, sure, you got great project, but there's a lot of companies. We've always seen companies that have
Yeah.
projects, potential, etc., and they never execute. We've seen that so many times, right? Here we actually have we got execution, we got, it's basically it's locked in. You have a partner, it's paying for everything. They've, so far they've exceeded they've exceeded speed wise. And now we got this blue sky, even more blue sky potential with this additional project. And again, the first one is still, you said they only drilled so far 1% of the property, basically.
Yeah, absolutely. And to your investors out there, I would say we're like the oldest rookie. We were at the beginning, but we're not at the beginning. So there's a good 14, 15,000 meters in there. You can check the results. The results are in line with what they should be. I think it's just a matter of visibility. And I think that that's probably the biggest catalyst for us. We've got money in the bank. We have a tight float. So I think it's just eventuality that people will just catch on to this story, Jack.
Yeah. So to wrap up, you got a market cap right now, roughly, it's under 10 million, 7 million, whatever. It's under 10 million. It's whatever, 8 million, 7 million. And you have, there's multiple catalysts now because you got the resource coming up 8 weeks out. You got the new project, and there's still, again, you've only touched less than 1% or 1% of the existing Pontax project. Dean, this is very exciting. I'm glad to have you back on, and let's get an update. When do you think we can have the next kind of, when is the next drill results expected? Do we know? What's time wise? Is the next 10 days?
I'm not sure exactly when they'll be coming out, but definitely they're all coming in. The remaining assays, I was told, are going to be completed and coming in before June. So I'm not sure exactly when they'll be releasing them. Again, our partner is driving that on that front, but definitely we should have some news as well. We
How many?
are from our sampling that was done in the past on the new property. So we may have something on the new property, and then we're going to get out in the end of June and start doing some sampling as well based on those returning assays of the sediments that were provided to us when we purchased it. So
Okay.
new news on that as well.
Okay. I don't want to press you on this, but let's call it over the next 6 to 8 weeks. How many news How many how many news items, how many news releases do you think you're gonna have over the next, let's call it 6, 8, over the summer, basically? We're in May, June, July, August.
It's difficult to say, but I again, we're going to have two, three, four, you know, I would say coming out. I know that they're working on it. I can't say that there's a resource, and I'm very cautious about,
Right.
I don't like to be too promotional and say things that are not going to be true. So I can't say, all I can tell you is that they have said, if you look at Cygnus Metals and their ASX announcement as well, so it's public disclosure, that they're looking for a maiden resource in June.
Okay.
I have no reason not to believe them because, like I said to you before, they've exceeded our expectations on every front.
Okay. So this is okay, so basically this is their statement. See, we don't wanna be over we don't wanna be, again, the last thing we wanna be is over promotional here. All the Canadian regulators, they love watching these programs with popcorn for any kind of statements that might be over promotional. But yeah, so the idea is, again, I think investors should be advised to read all the news releases, look at the drill results, and also on Cygnus, on their releases, they also have data on this, right? So there's a lot of information that people can digest. And let's see, okay. And also the good news is you're gonna have some initial exploration on this new project over the next couple of weeks also, right? You're gonna have some new, what
Yeah,
is it,
we'll
the
have a
same
little bit of information. Just we're waiting to see
early,
what
early. Yeah.
the signatures are like, and then we've already booked to go out there at the end of June. So we're excited to get on that property. The property looks great, and again, our strategy is to try to maximize shareholder value and spend a bit of money to see what we have and what's there, and hopefully we're successful again. And we're in the right strike zone, so we look forward to putting some effort into that and sharing those results with our shareholders once we get them.
Okay. Yeah, I'm just trying to analyze this, how I'm trying to get into some investor psychology here. The size of the new property, what, what's, how does it compare to the size of the existing one? Is it this, are they the same size basically, or it's about the same
Uh,
size, right?
Yeah, they're very similar. They're about the same size. When you talk about parcels like this on the strike, there's a lot of strike, right? You might have 50 kilometers. This thing's probably about 34 kilometers away from where we are, right
Okay.
on this towards the road. So yeah, we it's a large strike. There's a lot of companies will blow that up, but what's more important is the actual strike itself, that you're on that trend, right? on the trend, and that's the most important thing for us. And we're excited to get our hands on that project.
Okay. Where I'm going with my question is, in theory, the projects are both more or less kind of the same. In theory, the stock should be worth double where it is right now. Potentially based on, especially if you get some good early data, maybe then investors could extrapolate. Okay, if these guys have some good data from this, and they were going to think that it should be worth at least double. No, logically.
I think if people look at the math, and I mean, if your investors take a look at what we have, if you look at how many shares we have outstanding, very low count. You look at how much money we have in the bank. So if we have, let's say, 2.4 million in the bank, we're expecting any day after spending the 4 million that Cigna spent, we should be getting $2 million of stock or cash, which would bring a value of roughly $4.5 million, 4.4. And then you look at, again, going back to if they come out with a resource estimate, and depending what that resource estimate is, when it comes out, they should take a look at that resource estimate and look at the comparables, see what the valuations are per every 10 million metric tons or what have you. And then you can start to look at the math. I can't tell you the math, but I think that people can see the math. And I think sometimes company investors look at companies that are smaller and say they're going to have to dilute a lot to spend money. That's not the case. I specifically went out to do a deal where someone else, better, smarter, more experienced, and has more access to capital could do the work. And it's a lot less dilutive that this way than it would have been for us to do. So we actually have capital in the bank, and we can go out and do the work that we need to do. Our situation is a little bit different. I think our model is a little bit different. And I think for people who are looking for something to invest in beyond just for what we discussed about the oil switching to electric vehicles and the subsidies, really, if you just do a bit of math on our project, and if you do a bit of math with our market cap and capital and a few other things, then I think they can come up to their own conclusion, and kind of the conclusion that we believe ourselves, and part of the reason why you see insiders buying.
Yeah, no, again, this is the type of thing we look for where it's a stock, it's an asymmetric type of setup. Dean, okay, on that note, I want to thank you, and we look forward to getting an update in the next week or so.
Fantastic. Thanks for having me, Jack. I appreciate it.
Thank you again, Dean.